Great. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Adam Elster. I'm the President of Global Field Operations for CA Technologies. In my role, I'm responsible for all of CA's go-to-market. That includes all of our direct sales, our partner sales, our services, and all of our pre-sales organizations. And that's globally across all product lines, across all geographies. So I appreciate everyone joining us at CA World this year. Hopefully you guys have had a productive couple of days and sessions and enjoying the keynotes and getting to understand CA Technologies better. And part of that experience, we understand, is not just hearing from CA. It's hearing from our customers. And as we think about CA, we think about CA World this year, a number of years ago at CA World, we started talking about digital transformation. We came up with a new marketing concept around business being rewritten by technology. Last year, we spent a lot of time talking about new technology areas that we thought were critical to us adapting to those needs of a digital transformation and how we were in our journey to digital transformation. And as you heard this year from the keynotes from Mike and from the keynote today between Iman and Otto, you heard about how we're seeing it becoming even more rapidly important for people to go through the digital transformation journey and to really achieve business results. And from Otto, you heard about how we are really driving new ideas around innovation. And Iman talked about some of the new product lines that we are launching. But while all of that is important, we understand for all of you and for all of the folks out there who are understanding, is this real? Where are folks in the journey? We thought one of the most important things to do was to have you talk with some of our customers. And not really to focus on technology or CA products, but talk more about the digital transformation journey, what it means to their companies, why it is so important. And I know for many of us, you've heard a lot of buzzwords throughout the technology industry. Digital transformation, it has absolutely been something that people have been talking about for a number of years. But now as we have spent a lot of time partnering with our clients over the last several years, we've seen it really become real, where it is a real cultural and business initiative within our customer base. And in some cases, it's changing their business model. And also in some cases, it's changing their business. Things were core to how they made money and how they went to market have shifted because of the needs of their customers. So we thought it'd be great to give you a little bit of perspective from some of our customers who we believe are on the cutting edge of this digital transformation, folks who are real thought leaders about driving this both in established and new organizations to really change the culture and their businesses. So what we were going to do here is we have roughly about, I believe, an hour together. What I'm going to do is introduce each one of the panelists here, let them spend about 5 minutes each talking about their business, about digital transformation, what it means to their organization. And then what we'll do is we'll leave the rest of the session open for Q&A. So in that time, you're free to ask questions about their organization, the journey, what they're seeing. You can ask me questions as well, but we'd like to make the second half of this session very interactive to get your questions and thoughts either on what you're hearing or what you're concerned about or what you might want to learn additional about. So that's how we're going to spend the next hour. So I'm going to jump right in and we'll go in order here. And I'd like to first turn it over to Adrian with Axtel, a partner of ours. And it's be really interesting to let Adrian give you his perspective on customers and how that's changing their business model along the lines of digital transformation. So, Adrian, why don't I let you start off?
Thank you, Adam. Hi, everyone. Axtel is a telecom service provider in Mexico. Not only telecom, we have a security and IT managed service provider. We started back in 1996, and we have progressed a lot in Mexico to provide value to our customers. Our network is around 40,000 kilometers of optical network, one of the most advanced in Mexico. We have 6 data centers, security operation centers, monitoring centers, and we provide a wide range of advanced services for both connectivity, unified communications, collaborations, security, and IT managed services. One of the challenges we're facing as a service provider is how you can provide value to the customers. Customers rely on you. They rely on confidence and the experience that you have, so their business processes are well undertaken and well performed, so they can have no disruptions on what they do. We have customers from the financial sector, insurance, retail, government, all of the segments, and mainly they really want a partner that can provide not only the monitoring or the continuity of the services, but the experience and the best practices that we can, in a daily basis, can have the technology and the processes and the people to manage their services. One of the things we're facing right now is how besides providing the value added, is we can be agile on providing new services through innovation process. Time is a pretty, I would say, unique aspect, and you need to move pretty fast. In a year, things can change dramatically. The technology changes dramatically. You need to have the correct processes and the proper people with the best attitude to manage change and manage rapidly to what the customers want and the customer needs. So we have some process establishers, and we have some partners, just as CA, that have helped us to manage our processes and our operations in a daily basis, so we can be proactive and predictive on what we are doing in our business. It's pretty different when you are managing a bank, and I say to the operations people, when you talk about transformation, and digital transformation, we view it as a three-dimension thing. It's a technology thing, it's process, and it's people. And I think the most advanced or difficult one is the people. When you tell to an operator, and I'm talking not under the perspective of an IT or a CIO, I'm talking here about the perspective of providing a service to a final customer, IT managed services. It's not a matter of just monitoring the server or just monitoring the storage or a database. There are business processes above the infrastructure. When there's a failure, when there's an incident with a bank, there's no transactions. You cannot make money transfers. You cannot make transactions between businesses. So when the people is aware about that an incident affect a business process, and they view how the impacts are outside there in the business, things change and move pretty fast. When the people for monitoring, incident management, root cause analysis, the whole end-to-end processes knows that and understands that you have the proper tools to manage the incident, the operations change pretty dramatically. And that's something we have been investing in this year. We have some tools, we have partnered with CA that allow us to have that view and that proactive and predictive behaviors on our operations to be more accurate on what we're doing and to manage better the incidents that we face in a daily basis.
Great. Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate your insight. Again, as we talked about some of the themes, it was how do you get closer to the consumer? How do you get more aligned to their needs? As Adrian said, shifting their model to be very focused on the process, the application, and speed. These are all part of that journey around digital transformation. So appreciate the insight. So if Peter, if I can turn to you. Peter's with Liberty Global. He's responsible for all of IT tests across Europe, and I think Peter's going to give some really interesting insight into what we were talking about in both today and yesterday in the keynote of the demand of IT and the need of speed in meeting that demand. And Peter has some really interesting ideas about what they've been going through in their transformation. So Peter, if you give us a little bit of insight into yours.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon. My name is Peter Francome. I am Director of IT across Liberty Global. That's just a recent appointment as we go through a 4,000 IT personnel reorganization right now, which is part of Liberty Global 3.0. Just a couple of months ago, I was heading up test and quality within Virgin Media. Virgin Media is owned by Liberty Global. It's 40% of the revenue of Liberty Global, based in the UK. We have about 6 million customers, and we are going through a £3 billion network to get us to close to 10 million customers. What we find is that if we have our cable in the ground, we have a strong brand, we have a very reliable and the fastest network in the UK. And if we have cable in the ground, then customers will come. So we're very much on a growth agenda. But that's not the same for Liberty Global across Europe. And what I've learned to understand over the last sort of 6 months, I've started to get involved in that there's different. Clearly, the customer creating a differentiated customer experience is key. But also, it's around re-architecting our core platforms. It is also meeting the cost challenges that we have in areas as well. So it is about it is about delighting the customer at every touch point. But also, it's about everything else that we have to go through as well. And I just ran some stats just a couple of days ago, and what we have seen within my test organisation, and you have to understand, I'm very much looking at this from a quality point of view, making sure that the customer has a quality experience, both in terms of the functionality we provide and increasingly more the non-functional requirements that we have to meet in terms of responsiveness, security, and things like that. And what we've seen is that we've seen over 100% demand on our services year on year for the last 3 years. And what I've also seen is that our cost of test is reduced by 15% during that time. And how have we done that? It's to be through innovation. Innovation has driven everything that we've done. So it's around CA tooling, it's around making sure that we have resources in the right areas of the globe in order to be able to give us the most cost-efficient labour delivery. But fundamentally, it's around getting our people to really drive innovation through our practice, and then being able to see the benefits in terms of time to market. Because if people say to me now, I'll come in and I'll help you test and I'll make sure your quality is good, I absolutely take that as a given now. What the key differentiators for us now are cost, but even more so time to market. In the UK, we operate in that space between BT and Sky. They're large organisations, we can never compete with them in terms of marketing or scale, so we have to be more nimble in the way we get products and services to market, and we have to drive innovation at every step. We have seen the advent of digital transformation has really had an impact in that. Over 50% of customers have any interactions with virtual media now do it through a mobile device, so they do it through a tablet or a smartphone. We have seen where we have really tried to leverage the data that we create through we have 6 million TV customers, and every time they click on the remote control, we've got a record of that. So we know when they go to bed, we know when they wake up, we know what they watch, we know what the children watch, we know when they leave the house. And that's really rich information for us to be able to exploit both for our own purposes and potentially to do advertising, whatever. So how do we use that data in a more meaningful way? But I've been in IT for a long time. And, I was saying to Mike, the CEO, this morning, I have the benefit of perspective, and I've never seen change to the level. 15 years ago we were testing on green screens, and now it's just coming at us from every direction. We need to be able to keep one step ahead of that, particularly in terms of, as I say, meeting the customer demand, but even more around security right now. And if anybody know about the UK market, know about the experience that TalkTalk went through, and we don't want to go through that. And we do everything we can now to be really smart about the security around outside of that. And the problem is then you have to make sure that you've got your security matched up with time to market, because nobody wants to do the cost and the time it takes to do security testing. But that's a realization of the world we live in right now. So it's an exciting challenge, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Yeah, that's great, Peter. Really appreciate that perspective. So, I mean, when you think about some of the things we were talking about, the demand, when you think of what Peter's talking about in his business alone, when you think of the ideas of demand, supply and demand and how that works, for organizations to have to deal with 100% increase in demand, it really puts pressure on supply. And the fact that, you guys were able to do that and reduced cost is an amazing thing. But again, it's about how can you meet the demand, how quick can you bring it to market, and by the way, the quality needs to be good and it needs to be secure. So, going fast and secure, these are the big challenges around digital transformation. So some really interesting insights. And now I'm a little bit terrified about when I'm using my remote control that you're tracking every time you switch it. So you also scared me on that one. Yeah. Appreciate that. All right, let's turn it over to Ram, who's Senior Vice President with Moody's. And Ram and I spent a lot of time today talking about their journey in digital transformation, a little bit about culture as well, because part of doing that, it also gets involved in the culture of an organization and how do you change a culture that was built to last, to built to change. So Ram, maybe you can share with us a little bit about Moody's, what you've been involved in, and how you see digital transformation in Moody's.
Thank you, Adam. I'm Venkataraman. I'm an SVP. I'm responsible for IT operations globally as well as DevOps, which we recently launched as a program. Even though we were doing all of those digital transformation initiatives, we started formally calling it DevOps so that it energizes the people to fall in line. We want a broader adoption. We really want every single person to participate in this process, because the only way we're going to be successful is every individual starts thinking about how to get shift left, as we say, get more efficient, stop doing the low inefficient stuff that you do day to day, and try to get to an automated, streamlined process. That's the utopia. Let me take a step back a few years back and talk about some of the real business issues, the challenges that business had. So when business would come to us and say, we need a change, we need something critical that needs to go in, typically the response from IT was 8 months, maybe 12, and if you give us, if you triple my budget, I can do it in 6 months. Right? So that's typical response, but from almost all IT, it's not unique to Moody's. I was in GE before and Pershing before that, pretty much the same kind of response. So obviously not something that's acceptable. The other kind of challenge is we have a compliance issue. The ESMA or the SEC have given us 1 month to respond and rectify the situation. We'll get it done. The response to situations like that, we'll get it done. We'll stop everything and do it, because we had to stop everything to do it. And then everything else we committed to for the rest of the year is off the table. We even have to spend the next 2 months just to replan everything and get back everything on the table. So that's the kind of challenge, real business challenge that we had. The other part of the challenge is globalization. Right? 10 years back, it was perfectly fine for us to take the entire weekend to do a release and bring all our applications down to do a release, because we were very US-centric. That's where 90% of our business was, and business wasn't up and running at that time, so it was okay for us to do that. Now, as you evolve and as Moody's has expanded globally, you look at Australia opening at Sunday evening, they're up and they need to be up and running. Dubai, Saturday is a working day, right? Friday is the day off, Saturday is a working day for them. China says 3 or 4 days of the year where the weekend is actually a working weekend for us. So we have to be working on those weekends. And we can only tell you that a month in advance. We can't tell you the beginning of the year. So the nimbleness, the need, the globalization, it made it a necessity for us that we can't take a 40, 50-hour outage to all our systems to do an upgrade, to do a software deployment. Just not something that was possible. For a couple of years, we had pretty much our Asia leaders saying IT doesn't care about Asia, right? And that's constant feedback. Right? So that's a real problem that we had to tackle. And the final issue that I want to talk about, there are many other drivers to this. But the other one that jumped out at us is issues that are caused because of change, the quality of the change itself. You made a change, you put it into production, and it broke. And we have measures. The good thing was we started measuring this about 5-6 years back. Our failure rate used to be close to 8%, 10%. When you're doing 200, 300, 400 changes a week, that's a lot of issues you have to deal with on a Monday morning. And we put a lot lot of effort into it. So these three things almost required us to adopt some of the practice. We saw a lot of them: automation, DevOps, getting to more agile way. Unless we did all of that, there's absolutely not even an option for us to start thinking of all the new opportunities that digital transformation provided to the business. If you're going to take eight months to get something out there, it doesn't matter. The product has come and gone. The opportunity window has closed. So it became absolutely necessary to do that. So in the last 2 years, we've started that transformation. We'll get there in the next 2 or 3 years. But in order for us to have better products, smarter products out there in the market, this is an absolute important first step. So let me end by saying where all of that ended up. Where we are right now, we are not where we wanted to be. Where we want to be. We will get there very soon. But we used to take 40 hours to do deployments. We used to start on a Friday evening, and we used to end very close to Sunday midnight, which is well in time for the US office, but disrupting half day in Europe. Today, the last deployment that happened last week, we started at 5 p.m. on a Sunday. We were done by 3 a.m. on a Monday morning, and that's all the automation that we have. That's all in about 8 months time frame from the time we started. Zero impact to any regions, except Dubai a little bit on a Saturday morning. And we'll get there. We need to continue. So we are not satisfied. That's why I say while we are happy, we are not satisfied with where we are, because we need to get that hours, minutes, and even get to a zero downtime deployment. We want to be able to deploy stuff with absolutely no impact to business. So we want to get there. So that's the first one. Incident cost because of change, we were at 10%. We are at about 0.5% at this point. Again, in 2 years. We have done all the low-hanging fruits and things that are simple. And all of this, believe me, the way we drive this is we say the DevOps program has zero budget. It's a zero net budget, right? So the target that is given to me, I say, is whatever you do, that money has to be, obviously there's an investment upfront for whatever you do. It has to be recovered within the calendar year, within the fiscal year, you have to recover that money in some fashion. And we have done that. And so every single improvement that we have done, we have been able to achieve that. Right? And the lead times are shrinking. Lead times are shrinking because we are doing the DevOps. We are beginning to invest on our agile processes, and that will take a little more time. But we expect that lead time to shrink in 2 ways. One is from an 8 months lead time, possibly get to 3-4 months. We maybe don't want to get a 2-week cycle. That's not something our business requires at this point, while that might change. At the same time, be more flexible for emergency things that need to go in very, very quickly. If something has to go in 2 weeks, be able to do that without disrupting the larger thing, right? Have that ability to do it, but not necessarily have to change everything to always do everything in 2 weeks. Have your cycles, make it more efficient, do the larger things in a reasonable time frame, but the emergency stuff be able to do it quickly. And we are very close to doing that. That is reality.
That's great. As you can hear, I mean, these, as you talk about, you hear about DevOps and digital transformation, it is a journey, but at the same time, as companies, as you hear are going through their journey, there are opportunities for them to get more efficient in cycle times, to do constant improvement on quality. So I would urge all of you, when you think about digital transformation, it is a journey. It's not an 18-month project with a definitive, here's the start, here's the end. There are opportunities that all the companies we work with have seen along the way to fix some common things like quality, windows, right? Not just meeting demand. All of these things enable the company to even be more agile to demands and also be efficient, because a lot of these programs, as you wouldn't be surprised, need to be self-funded. So great insight, Ron. So Amit, if we could have you give us a little insight into your organization. Amit's the head of Global Technology for Singapore Post. I would start by saying you might think you know what Singapore Post is, but I think you're going to get a little understanding of the things you didn't know Singapore Post was, their relationship with Alibaba, and hopefully Amit, you give a little insight into what you might have thought of when you heard Singapore Post and what Amit is actually working on to change their business.
So, Adam, you kept your promise. Okay. Hi, my name is Amit. I head the group technology for Singapore Post. As the name says, we are the national postal provider in Singapore. Like most postal organizations, our industry was being disrupted time and again. It's been seen that letter volumes, as in the letters in which you put stamps and send, is going down because it's been replaced by digital disruptions. So we were no different. Our industry was being disrupted, and the mail volumes were going down. So the management and the board decided that, that they used the term, we were sitting on a burning platform. We had a sort of fledgling business, but the business was going down. I mean, time and again there are studies everywhere that globally the physical mail business would decline in the next 6 to 7 years. So literally we'll not be sending mails, but only for statutory reasons, if any. So how do we stay relevant, and what business are we in? So we went through our share of transformation. We had new management, I can say around 5 years back, and we decided we want to be the regional leader in e-commerce logistics and trusted communication. That's how we started with our goal. So I take care of what we call as e-commerce logistics. Just to give an idea of what we do versus some of my peers asked, versus traditional logistics providers. Traditional logistics providers do warehousing, fleet, freight, and they've been there. It's like third-party logistics providers. They have large warehouses where bulk of the money is done by storing goods and moving them. What we try to do is we want to do e-commerce logistics, and in some sense we coined that term. Now it's a market common synonymous term. What it means is anything that is required for an e-commerce organization to operate, we'll be doing that. So we said, okay, what we have? We have an enviable position in Singapore where we can connect with Southeast Asia and Pacific. So we are having postal connections, so we can connect to 200 odd countries in the world. And in Southeast Asia, we can have our own beachheads. That's how we expanded. So 5 years back, we started with this journey. We had a board mandate to change the organization and focus on new service and offerings. Mind you, we had very thin margins to make because e-commerce logistics is very difficult. Just to give an example, I'm sure all of us would be looking for free shipping when we buy on Amazon. So we make money on shipping, we don't make money on merchandise. So imagine what would we get in IT is even small. So we had to think out of the box, we had to think differently to come to the market. We went on this journey, it's been 4 to 5 years. In 5 years what we have done is we have doubled our revenues, and we've almost tripled our market cap. That's where we are a listed organization. Sorry, if I could start with, we are a listed organization on the Singapore Stock Exchange. Our largest shareholder happens to be Singapore Telecom, the parent. And of course, 2 years back, Alibaba took a stake in the organization. They believed we can do a lot of e-commerce logistics work. They thought and they had faith that we have the skills to do this, and they reinforced it, where just a few weeks back, they increased their investment by almost the same amount. So it's the second largest investor in Singapore Post. So my portfolio covers, we grew by both organically and inorganically. We did acquisitions all the way from Australia. We bought an entity called Couriers Place, which is the third top 5 Metro Express provider in Australia. We did a couple of acquisitions in Hong Kong, in Malaysia, the last 2 being out here in the US. We did one acquisition in excess of 200 million in Ohio, Cincinnati, for a company called Trade Global, and an organization in Tampa Bay, Florida called Jagged Peak. So we have a significant presence in the US and likewise in Asia. Now what we call is, we aspire to be the global leader in e-commerce logistics because we have footprints out there. My portfolio covers 5 time zones and 12 countries in that part of the world, which includes all the way from New Zealand to India. So like most organizations, we had our challenges of becoming digital. The very fact we are doing e-commerce logistics meant we were in the 24/7 industry, because anyone can buy or shop anytime because it's pervasive. You just pull your mobile phone and you could buy. So where our challenge starts is the moment you buy something and you select shipping, our clock starts there. So of course, physical shifts happen in business hours. It's 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, but all the way, imagine you're buying something from say Alibaba or Rakuten from Japan or China, and you have to ship it to Sydney or Düsseldorf. Everything that goes by, different borders are there. Physically, the things have to change goods. It has to go through customs. It has to clear duties in a different jurisdiction. It is multimodal. It could be in trucks. It could be in a flight. It could be on road. But we need to deliver because we sell promises out there, and that's how we deliver. So that includes myriads of technology we go through. We are our share of problems on fixing our development psyche, getting the team all together. What it also meant was we were able to jumpstart a lot of stuff which others didn't. So we invested a bit on API management, we're getting the act right, because e-commerce is always API led typically. So we did invest on that, and now we are our next major focus would be on microservices, because the more and more e-commerce focus, right, we want to be part of the ecosystem. So what we do as is IT, and again, will be unlike postal organizations, we have a subsidiary called SP e-commerce. SP is in post e-commerce. What it does is it is everything what a physical retailer would want to do if they want to start e-commerce business in Asia. So let's take some large retailer, they want to come and set up in Asia. We can build websites for them, that is web stores. We can do payment integration for them, we can do call centers for them, we can do search engine optimizations, we can physically house their inventory, we can do order management, we can do custom clearance, we can physically ship those goods, and we can return it by cross-border if you want. That might be unlike a postal organization. So that means it cuts across different facets of technology. Pretty much digital is the way to go, because our business is focused on that. And yes, we do look for partners who we could work on a journey and build those solutions for our customers.
Great, thanks Amit. So again, real interesting story about what digital transformation is, because you take a company and they're shifting where the value is and how they're going to achieve their differentiator in the market. How do you leverage technology? And I think, again, as I was spending time with Amit, understanding their roadmap, I was learning more and more about their business model, and it is really changing the way people think about doing business. But all of us know, and Amit was talking about these characteristics of digital business. It's things that we all use in our daily life. So it is a natural business progression, but it does require a digital transformation of a company that's been around a long time, that had some core functions, that you can leverage those capabilities and move to new areas so you can transform your business model. So I appreciate that, Amit. So I think you got a little bit of a sense from each one of these individuals, right? And this is a global perspective. So, we did work clear, Axtel, based in Latin America and Mexico. You heard Peter talk about, what he's doing across Europe. Ram, obviously a very important North American organization, but with global reach and responsibility, and Amit in APJ. So as you hear about digital transformation, we're seeing it across the globe. We're seeing it across industries. So as you see, these are each different types of industries. And what you're also hearing is it doesn't just touch one part of technology. Isn't just about agile development. It is also about agile operations to meet customer demands, security needs to ensure that the things you're doing have quality, DevOps, and all of those principles. So, what I hope you're hearing from this is you learned over the last few days about our thinking around built to change and where we're focused. Touches the world, it touches all industries, and as it relates to what's important, it really goes from Agile Ops to DevOps, across security, across all parts of the businesses that we're involved. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of insight. So what we're going to do now is we have another 30 minutes left on the program, and we're going to turn it over to you. So this is an opportunity for all of you to ask specific questions to an individual. You can ask to a topic. I think we have a microphone, and well, we start right here in the front. And if you can just introduce yourself, so.
Hello, Lance McCarthy, Integration Developer News. Thanks everybody, for a great overview of how you're connecting DevOps capabilities with the business. This has really been a great session so far. Let me ask a question this way, kind of high level, and any of you can jump in on.
Sure.
In a lot of ways, DevOps is a way to accelerate the deployment pipeline for cool apps that might be stuck somewhere and haven't been tested correctly, and get them out there in the real world that people use them. What is the dimension that you're all working on to let that third leg of the stool, the actual business people, the folks with ideas, get involved in DevOps? When you think about the word pipeline, it's kind of like it's a straw with no entry point. It's obvious. I just share the example. I mean, a lot of people have talked today and yesterday about Uber using APIs as an example, but not everybody that uses API management is smart enough to have come up with So I just wonder if you could talk a little bit about how the business or the cool new idea gets involved in this cycle.
I would tell you there's two parts of this, and I'm going to turn over to the pen. Not everything is a brand new, cool idea from scratch. Some things are incremental ideas that improve. So maybe I could start with Peter, who deals a lot with influx of demand, which is from the business. Maybe Peter, you give a sense of how you do that. And then from that, I'd like to turn it over to Ram, because he has some interesting perspective on how DevOps is important for incremental change as well, not just the great, cool new idea. All right? So Peter, maybe you can start.
That's a great question. And I think it was really encapsulated well by what Mike said yesterday around IT is now the business. I have this perspective in terms of I've been in IT for so many years now that I've seen that IT was this thing that the business sometimes reluctantly had to engage with, and also, don't release into live because it's just going to drive the call volumes up. So now it's fundamentally, and where we haven't got DevOps practice rolled out sort of ubiquitously across our organisation, but where I see it work well is where we have we have good tooling and we have a multidisciplinary team around the same objective, and that same objective is normally driven by the product guy. So it feels like we work for the product guy, and from my perspective, I want to make sure we do a very good quality job in order to make sure, and the dev guys want to do a very good, quick job to get the product out into the marketplace. So I think that where I see it work well, and it is transformational in terms of how you see IT and business operate, is where everybody is kind of around the same objective, and break down silos, increase communication, increase trust across teams within IT, which is not the easiest thing to do as well. But really, for me, DevOps is fundamentally driven around a business objective that we all support and buy into.
Ram, any insight you have on that same topic?
Yeah, so DevOps absolutely has to ultimately drive business benefit. That's why I started off talking about the specific business pains that we're trying to address. And it's absolutely that, right? And businesses see the value. They don't get this agile portion of the life cycle, but they're actively involved in helping define what they need. And then there is the DevOps, which is you're right, it's more the pipeline. The work, heavy lifting is pretty much done by IT, but the benefits all go back to business. There should be nothing in the DevOps program that we are doing that doesn't ultimately end up in a business benefit. But there are areas where they need to collaborate as well. So some of the examples. So if you want to shrink our life cycle, right, and when we do a deployment, it used to be in the past that the business users had very little trust in IT, only because of the number of failed changes. They would insist on coming and doing a full-blown testing in production before we said production release was complete. Right. A 3-4 hour testing cycle that all the folks had to do. First of all, the users complained that they weren't happy doing that over a weekend. And it was a very painful process because things broke, and then the whole cycle went through, development came in to fix it, emergency deployments. They lost an entire weekend, even though it's a 4-hour planned event. So where we are today is we've completely eliminated it. We basically said we're going to automate our testing to a point where the validation is done automatically. And we will provide you the results, and if there's an issue, then we'll engage. But instead of coming in about, on an average, 2.5 weekends a month, they used to come in. They come in once a quarter. For the real big releases where we have not mastered it yet, that's when they come in. So huge shift in how business operates, and now they have more time to do other value-added stuff.
So I think what you're hearing is, what we're seeing in a lot of the customers is having a much more open feedback between the business and IT, and to the extent IT is able to speed up their ability to meet the demand, you get even more input. So it becomes very collaborative, and like I said earlier, it tends not to be that one giant big idea and the 18-month project. It tends to be 100 little ideas that get part of the overall cycle. So that's why when you said the one big idea, it tends to be a lot more iterative approach to how you get the feedback.
Let me put a number on 485 stories implemented from the beginning of this year.
485. as opposed to one big one-year project?
Absolutely.
Great question. We have someone in the back.
Martin Guy from CA. Thank you so much for your time and your insight. I think it's been fantastic. My question is related to the last one, but on the digital transformation journey that you've undertaken, how have you gone about soliciting customer feedback, and particularly really end customer feedback, I guess, not just internal? Have you then integrated that into your digital transformation program?
Great. I think it's a great question because for all of you and for us, our customer, is sometimes, one more removed from the business, and how do you make sure you have that exact feedback loop? So I think it's a great question. So maybe Adrian can start, because he and I have been talking a lot about how important it is, the offering to the customer, and then maybe Amit, you can follow up a bit and talk about how you think about that.
3 years ago, we decided to adapt or get the design thinking process for innovation. We partnered with the Stanford University, and this is the third year that we are following the methodology for prototyping services. Definitely it's important to have the conversation with customers, what is the industry trends, what the technology partners are bringing to the table, and with that in mind, talk directly with customers, banks, retailers, insurance company, on where are the next generation services to follow. One of the things we mainly take care of is if something needs to fail, you need to fail fast. So you have the concept, you have the prototype, you have the assumptions on whatever the service is. Right now we're evaluating the next generation services for next year is IoT as managed services, how we can provide to several segments using IoT, managed infrastructure, so we can provide the infrastructure on processing, storage, application management, so the several application that gets the information from the sensors can be well managed, and the information is provided in a very fast and expert way to the customer. Big data, social networking, and mobility to customers. Right now we're in the prototype phase. So the prototype, we want to launch it pretty fast in particular customers, so we can have the feedback from a real user. And with that feedback, we can know if something that is pretty high on the concept is a very practical way of going to the market. And typically what we do, we phase the launches. I mean, we start with an initial phase, or launch number 1, get the feedback from some customers. Based on that feedback, if it has some conditions, we move forward for a general availability, and then we move forward for the new features going on. We use that for collaboration, for system integration, cloud services, managed storage in Mexico.
Great. Amit, how do you handle getting the end user feedback in some of the offerings?
So I think I might quote a real life example. So we have a service, logistics easy to understand, you can look and feel. We have a service called POP Station. POP is acronym for Pick Your Own Parcel. So it's a parcel locker where if you buy something from a website, and if you select your parcel locker near your home, you can actually track the parcel all the way from where it started internationally, that it comes at your home. So you might use a mobile app, and then the parcel would come in. So we launched this service across the island, and around 150 parcel lockers are there. The first phase, it was a new service. We're trying to get people understand the concept of parcel lockers convenience, 24/7 at your thing. So the first phase of how you go and pick your parcel was, it was a standard OTP pin that's sent to your mobile number, and there is a lock number. That's the first phase. So people were saying, okay, fine, I get a pin when the parcel is arrived in Martin, the parcel is available, and that was the first feedback. Because we wanted customers to get used to the service, it was a new service, they had not understood what's the hard part. Suddenly we realized, oh, it is picking up, people are liking it now, what's next? We wanted to link it to what we call as a CX experience, customer experience. Our target segment is what we call, our customers are not B2B, not B2C, but we say it's B2B for C. What it means is, and this is actually in our annual report, so it's a
B2B for C.
B2B for C.
That's good.
So our customers are, we service marketplaces, we service e-commerce sites, and customers come on those sites. So we service e-commerce customers, but they're not our direct customers. So they have an intuitive experience of buying easy and zippy on a mobile phone. Why can't my parcel picking be as easy and zippy? Because you're millennials, you would not want to go on a website and put your tracking number and comment. So there's a mobile app where you get all the updates. There are alerts and badges that come in. So first phase was PIN and SIM. Second phase, we understood they are picking up, the business is picking up, and then we introduced QR codes. So in your mobile app, you can have QR code. So again, go to the kiosk, flash your mobile QR code, your locker pops up. But again, people started taking it and queuing started because we had more and more demand. Then we figured out, oh guys, this is getting too much because they love it, we have to catch up, we are listening to customers. Then we figured out, we got into, as I use the word, accidentally got into IoT because we realized that we need to solve this problem. And then in the same mobile app, what you do is if you can download the app, it's a gimmick, you with your alphabet, you can actually make the letter U. What it does is during that time, it's create a session from the sensor that you are the unique person standing in front of your parcel locker, and automatically it's called air unlock. It's our technology worked out. So exactly out of say 40 lockers, exactly your one will pop up. And so you don't need to queue up. Now all that came from listening to customers. We keep on solving problems, and if there's a stories that people like, fine, they.
I was scared of my remote, now I think I'm scared about the locker idea now. But as you can see, I mean, I think I love the B2B to C analogy, because again, that is the heart of the question is, again, all of us are trying to change our businesses, not for our own good, it's for the consumers or the business folks that we support and what they're expecting. I mean, you're right, it's amazing, all of us take for granted now that you can go to any website and track a package. Now you got millennials who think that's an antiquated idea and it's too hard to do that. So, I'm getting older by the second listening to that story, right? But I think that is, when you talk about built to change, that is the pace that all of us are experiencing. And our expectations, I don't know about all of us, right? Our expectations of technology and how we're going to utilize it, how we're going to interact with companies, the requirements are getting, harder and harder by the day, which is why you have to adapt. Other questions in the audience?
Something that we really notice when we use design thinking is not a technology issue. I mean, the technology is a tool just to solve or provide the service in the best way. It's a matter of experience. It's what is the experience the customer will have managing workloads or managing information from one infrastructure to another one, or using the disaster recovery plan. So in our education, internal education and culture, changing the chip in our teammates on just making the technologies aside and let's focus on the experience the customer will have end-to-end, since buying the solution, acquiring the solution, delivering the solution, operating the solution, and the customer care process on using the solution, that's something that is more valuable for the customer. And each time, the customer asks you more about how you will do things rather than what technology you will use to provide the solution.
Right. Because at the end of the day, it is about business outcomes.
Right.
Right. It's not, at this point, there's an assumption of technology built in now to all the things we do. And it's more about the user experience and the business outcome. Great. Other questions in the room? All right. Well, we appreciate the time today. Hopefully over the course of the week, you get a good feel for what we're seeing across the marketplace and the need for the digital transformation. And, what you got to hear today is from some real leaders who aren't talking about it, they're doing it. And it's not a project that started a year ago and ends next week. It's something that as we see the pace of change and how you do business, that it's going to be constant. And we believe this evolution will continue. It's going to speed up, I think, for all of us. What's the biggest challenge? Probably the demand. And then next to that is time. And I think for all of us, what we're seeing is the one thing we all realize is that technology is ever changing how we interact with customers. And it's also changing faster than any of us had to expect. And unless we build organizations that can adapt to the business needs, the technology environment, we run the risk of not being able to either serve our consumers, our businesses, and in some cases, our business models will be disrupted unless we do change. So, thank you everyone for the time. To the panelists, thank you guys. Really appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of the conference.